Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Let us start the class today. Okay, and let us see. Till previous classes, we saw that how to deal with single degree of freedom system, and then how to solve multi-degree of freedom system approximated as a single degree of freedom system. Okay, so basically for single degree of freedom system, what we discussed, if we have a single degree of freedom system, then we have only one degree of freedom, right? Then we moved on to continuous system, for which we said that exact analysis might be a little bit tricky or it might be a little bit convoluted, but there is a way in which I can solve continuous systems without having to solve a multi-degree of freedom system by assuming a shape function which basically approximate the dynamic deflection using a shape function or a function that can represent the deflected shape. Most of the method was accurate enough, and there are a lot of application for this type of analysis, especially in design, where we rely more on simplified analysis rather than going on to the complicated analysis for preliminary design. Okay, now the transition that we are going to make is multi-degree of freedom system. Okay, so for continuous system, we assumed the shape function. So this was approximate method in which we assumed a shape function which might or might not be the actual deflected shape. However, now when we will actually solve the multi-degree of freedom system, then for multi-degree of freedom system, we are going to find out the actual deflected shape. Okay, so using the methods that we will learn, we can actually find out what is the deflected shape and what are the deflected shape. We'll see that multiple degree of freedom system would have multiple deflected shape or the shapes in which it can deflect. Okay, and we are exactly going to find out. So no approximation is needed there. Okay, as I said that for continuous system, we can have infinite degree of freedom system. For multi-degree of freedom system, we'd have finite, but now we would be able to find out the deflected shape exactly. Okay, so to do that, the first step is for multi-degree of freedom system, as we saw that most of the systems in real life have infinite degree of freedom system. Okay, so we reduce a, let us say, infinite degree of freedom system to either a single degree of freedom system, which might or might not be very accurate depending upon the problem. Okay, or we can approximate it as multi-degree of freedom system. Just for representation, let us say this is a 3-degree of freedom system. Okay, and basically when we consider multi-degree of freedom system, it tends to increase the accuracy of the analysis, and many times it is important to do that because the single degree of freedom analysis might not provide us appropriate results that we are looking for. Okay, so now let us see what are the important parameters and how do we solve multi-degree of freedom system. Okay, so like single degree of freedom system, again, we are going to represent any system as a combination of mass. And the first example that we are going to take, which we have already studied in last class, is shear type building. And what is the property of a shear type building? Well, a shear type building is one in which, let us say, we have a multi-story building, a 3-story building. Let us say we have a 3-story building here. 1, 2, 3-story. Okay, so for shear type building, we neglect any axial deformation. Axial deformation is neglected. Okay, and then the second assumption is, which we will see, is any kind of flexure deformation is also neglected in the beam. Okay, so flexure deformation in beams are neglected. Okay, and you just don't have to take my word for it. Okay, try to imagine if you take a column or a beam, can you imagine if you have a beam like or a column like this? Okay, if you try to deform it, actually its actual stiffness is very high. Okay, however, if you try to deform it laterally, you might still be able to without having any actual deformation. Okay, so for typical kind of scenarios, the axial deformation is much smaller than the lateral deformation, and that's why we neglect it. Okay, similarly for beams, what happens? These beams are not by themselves. Okay, if you look at each floor, basically when you have a slab, something like this, okay, it is supported on first the primary beams, which would be at the perimeter, let us say, and then secondary beams, which take the load and then transfer to primary beam, and then it goes to columns. And this is the system that we idealize. Now, what happens when you have a slab like this? It becomes much more difficult to actually bend this beam because this beam is now encompassing the slab as well. So with respect to the column, which can be deformed laterally, the flexure deformation of this beam, okay, it becomes difficult. Okay, so that assumption you also have to keep in mind. Okay, so with these assumptions, okay, we defined our multi-degree of freedom system. Okay, and let us see how do we simplify it. So if you look at in general, any 2D system would have 3 degree of freedom system, right? Horizontal, vertical, and then rotation. This is a 2D system. Okay, now if you have a frame, let us say a simple frame like this. Okay, for these type of frames, if I first, let us say, reduce any kind of axial deformation. So if the axial deformation in the beams are neglected, let us say we start with 3 degree of freedom at each node. So the axial deformation is neglected, then I can say this U1 and U2 would be same, right? Because there is no relative deformation in the beam. Actually, it is rigid. So in that case, I can simplify it. Second thing I would do is basically, if you look at these ones, these basically represent the vertical deformation. If the column is also actually rigid, then assume no axial deformation. Okay, these vertical coordinates are neglected, degrees of freedom are neglected. No axial deformation in the beam, then all of these can be, all horizontal can be represented using a single degree of freedom system. I still have this flexure, and now if I assume the beam to be flexurally rigid, then I can simply ignore this for a shear type building. So I can say at each level I have only 1 degree of freedom, which represents the horizontal movement of this type of building. Now, not all the building are shear type building. Okay, and if you want to do more accurate analysis, then you have to consider additional degrees of freedom like flexure here. Okay, but for illustration or for getting insight into multi-degree of freedom system, let us start our example like this. Okay, now this is about the degree of freedom of a 3-story building. The second assumption is that, which we have been doing, we are going to assume all the mass of a floor is concentrated here. And let us talk about why that is appropriate. Okay, if you look at each level, most of the mass are concentrated where? It is concentrated at the floor or the roof level, right? In between you have only walls. Okay, but at the floor and the roof level, you have the mass distributed throughout the plan. So most of the mass contribution actually comes from the floor. Okay, and the contribution of the walls of the columns, okay, below and above the floor are actually lumped into that level. And then we say that this representation is appropriate. Okay. Now, like a single degree of freedom system, in this case as well, okay, we also define damping, and like we had done for a single degree of freedom system, like for this frame here, okay, considered represent the relative of the damper. Okay, here also we define damper like this at each level. But later we will see that this might not be useful and we'll have to consider other forms of damping. But let us, for the beginning, right now, let us assume that this is how the dampers are at each floor level are defined. Okay. Is this clear up to this point? Okay. Now, many times you would see this is also being represented as something like this, which is to say same, as long as it is, say, it has same degrees of freedom and same stiffnesses and other mechanical properties. Both these systems are equivalent, and basically U1 is this, U2 is this, U3 is this, because if I'm not considering the flexure deformation, it does not matter what is between these two ends anyway. Okay, so I represent it like this. So this is a representation, a very simplified representation of a 3-story shear type building. Okay. Shear type building. We call it shear type building because it can only deform its shear. Okay. Now, the question is, for our single degree of freedom system, this SDOF system, we were able to represent this, the equation of motion for this system, something like this. Okay. Can I somehow represent the multi-degree of freedom system? Okay, similar to this as well. And why would I like to do that? Well, I already have the equations and everything derived for a single degree of freedom system. Now, like the continuous system, let us say even multi-degree of freedom system, if I can able to do something like this, then it simplifies a lot of tasks for me. Okay, so our goal is to bring this system to something like this. Now I know that it is not a single degree of freedom system. So U would not be a single quantity. It would be vector. Okay, so in this case, basically, I would have a displacement vector that represents the individual displacement or individual degrees of freedoms. Okay, and mass, I would have degree of freedom system. We would be dealing in terms of vectors. Vectors look like a matrix which has a single row or a single column. Okay, so we would be dealing in terms of vectors and matrices. Okay, for multi-degree of freedom system. Now, let us come back to the single degree of freedom system that we had done, and remember, keep in mind that a multi-degree of freedom system is nothing but combination of multiple single degree of freedom system. Okay, so let us say, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, okay, different levels. Let us say at any level, okay, I will call it level J, okay, or the story J. Now, the story J is made up of J minus 1 and J. Okay, and then I have the columns at the story J. Okay, and then I have the damper at story J. Okay, and then the mass as well. Now I know the story shear, okay, can be represented at any story as Vj equal to story stiffness times the relative deformation between the two ends of the story, which is also called story drift, and we represent it as delta J, which is nothing but Kj times Uj minus 1. Okay, and Kj for us, story stiffness is sum of stiffnesses of all the individual columns that are at that level. So sum of all the columns at that level. Let us call it Ij, where I varies between 1 to whatever number of columns, or instead of writing that, let me write it K of all columns. Now, if we considering it to be fixed connection, which is the case for shear type building, okay, then this simply becomes sum of 12 EI by h cube, where h is the story height, okay, over all columns, sum over all columns. Okay, similar to story shear, this is the contribution due to the stiffness of the story. However, I have damper as well, and the damper contribution would come from relative velocity. Remember, not the total velocity, but the relative velocity, again between two ends of the floor, the bottom at the top, or we can call it relative drift or drift velocity. Okay, so in that case, the contribution of Vj, so this is the stiffness contribution, the Cj, which is the damper coefficient at that level, that particular story, times delta J dot, which is Cj, Uj dot and Uj minus dot. Okay, and again, if there is a multiple damper, Cj would again be the summation over all the dampers. Okay, so this is for an individual story. Okay, and we are going to utilize this. Okay, we are going to utilize this to get the equation of motion. Now remember, in addition to the story shear contribution by these two components, I have another force, which is the inertial force of the story, which is Fij would be mass times J. Okay, mass times J times the acceleration at that level. Something like this. Okay. Contribution of the inertial force at that particular level. So now what we are going to do, we are going to take our system, this 3-story shear building, and we are going to cut it at different levels. Okay, and then we are going to write down the equation of motion using free body diagram. Okay, so the procedure remains same. Even for multi-degree of freedom system, you still have to draw the free body diagram, okay, to get the equation of motion. So let us take this free body diagram of this. So let me draw it again here. So what I'm showing you here is again that 3-degree of freedom system that we have considered. And let us say that it has deformed something like this under the application of loads. Okay, and at different level, let us call it P1, P2, P3. Okay, and the mass has moved from here to here. Okay, for this case here to here. So this is M1, M2 and M3, and this quantity here is U1, this quantity here is U2, this quantity here is U3. Okay, and I have damper as well, which was connected something like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this case, I'm going to cut my structure at 3 places, one here, the second one between here, and the third one here, and then draw the free body diagram and then see how does it look like. Okay, so for the topmost story, let me draw the free body diagram. It looks like something like this. I have this mass M3 here. Okay, or let me first write down the other forces. Remember, it is moving towards right. Okay, what would be the acceleration at this level? It would be mass times U3 double dot. This would be the inertial force acting opposite to the direction of motion. Now I have cut it here. So the story shear contribution due to the stiffness and the damping forces would also come, correct? So it would come something like, say this is my Fi. Okay, this is my Fd, and then due to stiffness, I would also have Fs3. Let us call this Ft3. And again, there is force P3 here. Okay. Now, the Fd3 is basically the damping at level 3 times the relative velocity at third story, which is equal to C3 times U3 minus U2 dot. Okay, similarly as FS3 would be K3 times U3 minus U2. So these are the stiffness and the damping contribution to the story shear at the third level. Now let us consider level 2. In that level, we would have forces from the above and the forces also from the story that is below that particular level. So this is here. Now I know if I consider free body diagram, the forces on the top would be equal and opposite to the forces that I have applied on the story above, right? So in this direction, I would have force F3 which is then I have forces, let us say Fs3 which are again acting opposite to the direction. Now U3 is in this direction, so I will have inertial force Fi2 would be equal to M2 times U2 double dot here. And below I would have, due to the relative deformation of the second story, Fs2 or let us write first Fd2, which would be C2 times the relative velocity, which now would be U2 minus U1, and then Fs2, which would be K2 U2 minus U1. Okay, so this is the free body diagram for the second story, and I've written down all the forces. There is also force P2 here, which is the applied force. Okay, now let us go to the first story and let us see what happens. Okay, so for the first story, I again have forces from the above and the forces from the below. Now forces from the above would be equal and opposite to these forces. So I would have Fd2 here and Fs2 here. Okay, now this is M1. So I would have Fi1 equal to M1 times U1 double dot. Okay, and below I would have Fd1, which is basically the story shown. Now remember, below the story 1, it is just the ground for which the displacement and velocity are equal to 0. So in this case, it would be simply equal to U1 minus U0, which is equal to 0. So I would write this as C1 U1 dot Fs1 is K1 U1. Okay, and of course there is force P1 here. Consider the free body diagram of this 3-story building. I have drawn the free body diagram for the 3-story that you see here. Now all I need to do is to write down this simultaneous equation of motion. Okay, and let us see how do we do that. Now if I consider, so this is third, second, and this is first. Now let us write down the equation of motion for the first story. Okay, so in that case, I can write down, okay, M1 U1 double dot, okay, plus Fd1 and Fs1 plus, or let us in this case, I have forces which are opposite to that. So it would be minus Fd2 minus Fs2. Okay, and that is equal to P1. Okay, now in this case, let us write down this further as, or instead of let us say M1, let me first write down Fi1 here. Okay, so what I have here, Fi1 plus this Fd1 minus Fd2 plus Fs1 minus Fs2 equal to P1. Okay, so I'm writing down it for a particular story, the first story, but for any general story, let us say jth story, equation would again be of similar form. It would be of form Fij plus, let us represent this, the damping term Fdj plus Fsj equal to P of j. Okay, and this is of the similar form that we had derived for single degree of freedom system as well. There is not much difference here. Okay, now let us substitute the values here and see what do we get. Okay, So in this case, if I substitute it, I will get m1 u1 double dot. Okay, the fd1 I have written as c1 u1 dot. Okay, minus fd2 is, if you look at here, minus of c2 of u2 minus u1. Okay, plus fs1, which is ku1 minus k2 of u2 minus u1, and that is equal to p1. So I can rearrange this and I can write this as c1 plus c2 u1 dot plus, or let us say minus, here there would be minus sign, c2 u2 dot plus, this is k1 here, k1 plus k2 is u2 minus k2 u2, and this is equal to p1. So this is the equation of motion for the first story. Okay, similarly I can write the equation of motion for second and third story, and let us see what do I get for the second story. Okay, I would get m1 m2 u2 double dot plus f d2 f of d2 minus f of d, and that can be written as, in this case, let me write down here, c2 of u2 minus u1 minus of c3 of u3 minus u2 here plus k2 of u2 minus u1 plus, or let us minus here, minus of k3 of u3, not a dot here, minus u2, and that is equal to p2, which can be further rearranged to be written in this form as, okay, this would be here minus c2 u1 plus c2 plus c3 times u2, and then I have minus c3 u3 term plus, or let us say again minus here, minus of k2 u1 plus k2 plus k3 u2 minus k3, okay, minus k3 u3 here, that is equal to p2. So this is for the first story, this is for the second story. Okay, and again for the third story it can also be written like that. Okay, it would be, let us say, m3 u3 here plus c3 u3 minus u2. Okay, there is no story above, so there is no force because of that, plus k3 u3 minus u2, and that is equal to p3. So I can rearrange this here, and this can be further written as minus c3 u dot plus c3 u3 dot plus, or minus k3 u2 plus k3 u3 equal to p3. So I have got three sets of equation. However, there is not a single coordinate, but there are three coordinates u1, u2, u3. So in order to write this down as an equation, I will utilize the matrix algebra. If you remember how to solve basically the simultaneous equation of motion, in that if I have an equation like this, then I matrices vectors and equation according to that. Okay, and you might already be aware of how to do that, or if you are not, then just write down everything in terms of all the coordinates. For example, here this equation can further be written as, okay, or let me write it again, m1 u1. Okay, there is no u2 double dot term, so I will just write 0 times u2 double dot plus 0 times u3 double dot. Okay, and then for the damping term, I can write down C1 plus C2. This is the coefficient of U1 dot minus C2. It is the coefficient of U2 plus 0 times U3 double dot. Okay, and similarly goes for the stiffness as well. K1 plus K2 times U1. Okay, minus K2 times U2 plus 0 times K3 because there is no K3 term here. Okay, and that is equal to P1. So this is our first equation. The second equation I can again write as 0 times U1 double dot plus M2 times U2 double dot plus 0 times U3 double dot. Okay, and then the second set of equation, which is basically minus C2 times U1 double dot. Okay, plus C2 plus C3 times U2 double dot, and then minus C3 times U3 double dot. Okay, and then I again have here as, let me write down this as minus K2 times U1 plus K2 plus K3 times U2 minus K3 times U3, and this is equal to, equation is 0 times U1 double dot plus 0 times U2 double dot, but I have a non-zero term for M3 or U3. So this is what I get. Okay, and in this case, if you look at this equation right here, okay, there is no term. So 0 times U1 double dot. There is minus C3 term here for U2 double dot, U2 dot, and then I have only C3 term here. Similarly, in this case, I have 0 times U1 plus, or not plus, let us say minus here. It doesn't matter actually, plus or minus in this case. Okay, in this case, because it's 0. So I will write this as C3 time, not C3, K3 times K2 plus K3 times U2, and here C3 times K3 times U2. Okay, and then plus K3 times U3. Okay, that is equal to P3. So if you look at it, these simultaneous equation I have written in terms of all the coordinates. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to write this as one, this as the second, and this as the third part. And how do I do that? If you look at the first set of numbers here, this is nothing but in terms of matrix multiplication, M1 0 0 0, M2 0 0 0, M3. Okay, so I'm just doing this for the first time so that it becomes clear to you. Next time I'm not going to write it like that. I'm just going to write the final equation. So for the second case, again, the coefficient is C1 plus C2, then minus C2, then 0, then again minus C2, then C2 plus C3, minus C3, 0, then minus C3, and then C3, and that is multiplied with, sorry, this is acceleration terms all here, and this is U1 double dot, U2 double dot, U1 dot, U2 dot, and U3 dot, the velocity terms. And again, similarly, the stiffness term 0. Okay, this is minus K2 here. Remember this minus term here. Then K2 plus K3 and minus K3, 0, minus K3 and K3, and this times U1, U2, U3, and right hand side the vector can be written as P1, P2, P3. Okay, so this is the equation that I've got in terms of the matrix form. And let us say if I write the first term as mass matrix, which is something like this, times the acceleration matrix plus damping matrix, which is this, times the velocity vector plus stiffness matrix times the displacement vector equal to the applied force vector, where terms have already been defined. This matrix, this is damping matrix, stiffness matrix, this is acceleration vector, velocity vector, and deformation vector. So now I have been able to obtain the equation in a similar form that we had obtained for single degree of freedom system, with one major difference. Now quantities or the are in terms of matrices and vectors. Okay, so this is the first step towards solving a multi-degree of freedom system. This is my equation of motion. And when I ask you to set up or find out the equation of motion for any system, basically your job is to find out the equation of motion in this form. Okay, write down in this form here. Okay, now let us look at this equation carefully and some of the important observations here. If you look at here, this was considered as a lumped mass matrix system in which masses were lumped at each floor level. So if you look at it, I have diagonal matrix for the mass, right? There is no off diagonal term for the mass, and that would be always the case for any kind of lumped mass multi-degree of freedom system. Okay, so for any multi-degree of freedom system, okay, that is considering lumped mass system, your mass matrix would always be diagonal by the definition. Okay, the precondition is that the mass need to be defined at the same degree of freedom. Okay, so in this case, M1 was defined with U1, M2 with U2, and M3 with U3. However, let us say there is no degree of freedom defined with M1, then you might get an off diagonal term. Okay, but in general for lumped mass system it would always be diagonal. Now look at the damping and the stiffness matrix. If you look at it, both damping forces and the stiffness forces depends on the relative drift velocity or the drift between the stories. Okay, so the form of stiffness matrix and the form of the damping matrix. Okay, so the damping matrix, stiffness matrix are exactly of the same form because they only depends on the relative quantities and they have been defined similarly. So in many cases, if you are asked to set up the equation of motion for this type of system, okay, you just need to find out the stiffness matrix and then automatically you can consider the damping matrix to be of the similar form. Okay, third observation is that like the mass matrix was a diagonal matrix, the stiffness matrix that you see here is actually a symmetric matrix. Okay, so if you look at here, I have minus K2 term here and I have the mirror image minus K2 here. Similarly, minus K3 and K3, 0 and 0. So it is a symmetric matrix about this. Okay, same goes for the damping. Okay, so these are some important observations for multi-degree of freedom system. Now, it is relatively easier to solve 2 degree of freedom system or 3 degree of freedom system, which we would be doing. But for any degree of freedom system higher than that, it becomes very difficult. So then we employ any kind of software or coding to actually solve those kind of systems. Okay. Clear step. Anybody has any doubt what we have done so far? See, if you are not asking question, then I would assume either you have understood everything good enough for me, or you need to ask question to get it clarified at this instance so that when we move forward, you don't carry forward that doubt. Okay. Anybody has any question?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, when can we have off-diagonal elements in mass matrix?
When can we have off-diagonal term in mass matrix? We will do an example. See, we have only considered a lumped mass system here, which basically said that masses are lumped like this, correct? And the degrees of freedom are defined like this at those masses. So in this case, the mass matrix would be lumped. However, if you have, let us say, a continuous system, okay, let us say this is a beam here in which mass is actually distributed, let us say ml by x. Okay, in that case, the mass matrix for the distributed system, distributed mass system, the mass matrix won't be diagonal. Second case would be in the cases in which, okay, something like this. This type of system can be defined in two ways. Okay, either you can define it degree of freedom like this. So in that case, or you can define something like degree of freedom this and this. Okay, both would represent a 2 degree of freedom system in the same system, but in these cases, you might encounter cases in which if the mass does not correspond to the degree of freedom, then you might get an off diagonal term. Okay, is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other doubt?